Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of March 4th, 2015. And Chief, would you lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Director Maloney, roll call.
Faria?
Here.
Lewis? Silvera?
Present.
Stonegrove? Here. Walter?
Here. Item number 4, consideration of approval of agenda. Do I have a motion? Mr. Silvera.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Faria.
Second.
Motion by Silvera, second by Faria to approve the agenda as stated. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Number 5, presentation, proclamation recognizing Girl Scouts Make the World a Better Place Week, March 8th through the 14th, 2015.
Girl Scouts, please join me in the Girl Scout promise. On my
honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law.
Very nice. Thank you. Well, thank you for being here again this year, and it's good to see all of you. And the nice part about Girl Scouts keeps changing, but you still serve the females of our community, and I think the leaders stay the same, but the girls just keep changing every year, correct? At this time, I would like to present the proclamation recognizing the Girl Scouts Make the World a Better Place Week, March 8th through the 14th, 2015. Whereas Friday, March 12, 2015, marks the 103rd anniversary of Girl Scouts of the USA, founded by Juliet Gordon Low in 1912 in Savannah, Georgia. And whereas throughout its distinguished history, Girl Scouting has helped build millions of girls and women of courage, confidence, and character. And whereas through the dedication, time, and talent of volunteers of different backgrounds, abilities, areas of expertise, the Girl Scout organization thrives for girls in so many settings. And whereas throughout Girl Scouting's unique leadership development program, girls define leadership and make the world a better place by discovering, connecting, taking action in their communities. And whereas Girl Scouting takes an active role in increasing girls' awareness of the opportunities available to them today in math, science, sports, technology, health, and fields that can expand their horizons. And whereas more than 3.7 million Girl Scout members nationwide will celebrate 103 years of this American tradition, with nearly 50 million women who grew up participating in Girl Scouting and exemplify the impact of this amazing movement. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and the City Council members of the City of Los Banos do hereby proclaim March 8th through the 14th, 2015 as Girl Scouts Make the World a Better Place Week, and applaud the contributions that Girl Scouts have made in their community and throughout the United States. Thank you so much for being here, and let me just please give a heartfelt thank you to the leaders, because Girl Scouts is an organization that cares for our young ones, but the leaders are the ones that care for all. Thank you again. Okay, does anyone want to say a few words? You want to say a few words? You can't let a man talk all the time. Come on, somebody's got to say something. Who wants to talk? Who wants to tell us about scouting? What are you doing here in town? Oh, here. Falls on you.
Well, we're very happy to be here, and we're super excited because we're trying to teach all of these young girls how to be parts of the community and leaders in their community. And we've been helping out a couple of times this year. We helped with the park and rec, putting the tan bark out. We've helped at the cemetery clean up, and we're really, really excited about what's coming up in the year for them and opportunities that they're going to come up in ways to help their community themselves. So we're very excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So find someone to give cookies to right up here.
Oh, you guys are evil. Thank you. These are my favorite too. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gary, let's bring them all over here.
Okay. Let's go on to item 6, public forum. Members of the public may address the City Council members on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council, which includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items, and speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted on the City Council informational table. When you approach the podium, please state your name and city of residence. And if you have cell phones, please turn them off or place them on vibrate. Thank you. Okay?
You know what, I could do the Girl Scout pledge too. I did with my daughter about a million times, so I have to throw that out there. It's kind of sad when I see them up here and they're I remember her being so young. But
we're not giving you our cookies.
Hey, we're supposed to be a giving community.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Eric Lamont, resident of Los Banos, employee of Republic Services, formerly known as Allied. Good evening, Your Honorable Mayor, City Manager, Council members, Attorney. Can't forget the Attorney. It seems like he doesn't get a lot of love. So I hope all is well. I'm here again tonight to remind all residents that our annual spring cleanup event will be held Saturday, March 28th between the hours of 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. This event is absolutely free to Los Banos residents. Bring all your unwanted items you can't place into your cart for disposal for free, including computer parts, monitors, electronic devices. Tires will be collected, 9 tires maximum. Anything more, State of California requires that they have a hauler's permit. So we have to make sure that we're doing the right things. So I have to ask, let everybody know. We ask that you do not bring household hazardous waste materials as they will not be collected. You are able to place 2 gallons of oil at your curbside on your route day. Make sure they're in a sealed container. Ideally, put them in. The milk jugs seem to be the most common thing people place them in. So we don't want any spillages out there making more work for Public Works. So we got to make sure we're doing the right thing. Oasis Secondhand Store will be on hand collecting charitable donations. Please arrive early as crowds develop quickly and be courteous to one another. I also wanted to give you guys some flyers that's being handed out to the public that will be in their water bill, and of course with city approval. So anyway, I'll give you these, and then I'll.
Could you just give them to Lucy? Okay. And Eric, the date again was?
March 28th,
Okay.
Saturday. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you for coming. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum?
Hello, Bertha Faria, Los Banos Chamber of Commerce, and a resident of Los Banos. The community calendar has begun to fill up for March. We have the city's annual Arbor Day celebration on Friday. The day begins with an Arbor Day breakfast from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Miller and Lux Center, and that's provided by the Millikan Museum Society for $8. And then the Arbor Day celebration continues at 4 p.m. at Regency Lot D Park, which is located at 556 Rockport Drive. On Saturday, the Los Banos Arts Council presents Tuck and Patty in concert. Tickets are available at brownpapertickets.com or by calling 826-6132. On Monday, March 9th, the Los Banos Unified School District invites the community to attend a groundbreaking celebration for the new junior high. The ceremony begins at 5 p.m. at the corner of Prairie Springs and Ortigalita. And then the Los Banos Seroptimists will be holding their annual Live Your Dreams Girls Conference on Saturday, March 14th. You can call 617-9624 to sign up for this fun and free event for 7th and 8th grade girls. We encourage community groups and organizations with upcoming events to call the Chamber with their information to add to our community calendar. It's a free service and it's a great resource for our community. The Los Banos Chamber has been busy preparing their calendar of events for 2015. We start March off with the Leaders Luncheon on Thursday, March 12th at M&M's beginning at 11:30. We will have representatives from the Department of Conservation and Western States Petroleum will be on hand for a presentation and a question and answer forum on hydraulic fracking. Lunch will be provided at no cost, but seating is limited. And if you would like to attend, please call me at the Chamber to reserve your seat by Friday. Then on Thursday, March 19th, beginning at noon, the Los Banos Chamber of Commerce will present a Women's Safety in the Workplace workshop in the Españas Banquet Room. Presenters for this workshop will be Commander Ray Reyna from the Los Banos Police Department, Ron Duran and Jocelyn Pulido from Peaceful Warrior Aikido, and Jesse Rodriguez from Central Valley Arms. There is no fee to attend, and if you would like to have lunch, the buffet menu will be available for attendees. And then our annual Downtown Spring Street Fair will be held on Saturday, April 18th from 8:30 to 3. We are looking for vendors of all kinds. We currently have 30 signed up to attend, and deadline for food vendors is the 27th. We look forward to filling 6th Street with vendors for the community to enjoy a day downtown. Applications can be found at our website, losbanos.com, or at our chamber office at 932 6th Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public forum, and we will go on to item 7, consideration of approval of consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be voted on in one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. And tonight we have
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 151874 through 152103 in the amount of $2,719,251.68. Minutes for the February 18th, 2015 City Council meeting. Los Banos Unified School District street closure request for Prairie Springs Road east of Badger Flat Road for the groundbreaking ceremony of the new junior high school from 4 to 6:30 p.m. on Monday, March 9th, 2015. Street closure parade request from the Merced County Spring Fair for the following streets surrounding the fairgrounds to be closed from 8 a.m. Monday, April 27th, 2015 until midnight Sunday, May 3rd, 2015. 3rd Street from E Street to D Street, D Street from 3rd Street to North Street, North Street from C Street to D Street, F Street from 3rd Street to 5th Street, 4th Street from G Street to F Street, and permission to use city streets on Saturday, May 2nd, 2015 for the annual May Day Parade. City Council Resolution Number 5639, authorizing the release of unclaimed checks pursuant to California Government Code Section 50050 and 50053 to the City of Los Banos. City Council Resolution Number 5640, awarding the bid for the lease of one new 2015-2016 model aerial truck and authorizing the Public Works Director, City Engineer to enter into the lease agreement. City Council Resolution Number 5641, authorizing entering into a First Amendment between the City of Los Banos and Marlene Pennington for rental of the Ranchwood Park facility, and the items are to be approved as submitted.
Is there any city council member who would like to remove an item for discussion? If not, do I have a motion? Mr. Freya?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Mr. Silvera?
I'll second.
Motion by Freya, second by Silvera to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Carried. Okay, let's go on to item 8, public hearing. If you challenge a proposed action as described herein in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Item 8A, public hearing. Annual review of the following development agreements pursuant to Section 65865.1 of the California Government Code: Stone Creek Pre-Annexation Village Green, Villages at Stone Creek 2A and 3, Northgate at Regency Park 2, Villa Barano Pre-Annexation, AMG Pre-Annexation, Orchard Terrace 2, The Provinces, Villages at Stone Creek 4, Mission Village South, Quail Meadows at Stone Creek, AM/PM McDonald's Pre-Annexation, East Mercy Springs, Spatafor, Janoni Pre-Annexation, and the Villas Northgate at Regency Park, Shaughnessy Village, and Ronnie's Pre-Annexation. And this is continued from February 4th, 2015, and we'll go to Assistant Planner Elms.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So I'm going to go over a review of what development agreements are and how they pertain to the City of Los Banos. And then I'm going to go through each of the development agreements and give you a status update and let you know if they're in good faith compliance with their agreement with the City of Los Banos. So to start off, what is a development agreement? It's a legally binding contract between the City of Los Banos and a developer that outlines the terms and conditions of a proposed development project. It allows a developer to secure vested rights and allows the city to secure certain benefits. It's enabled by the government code, and that's government code that was stated by the mayor, section 65865.1. And when they're used, they are commonly used for land use developments that will be done in phases. So this is to ensure that improvements are done as agreed upon between the developer and the city. And it provides assurances to both parties, and they're legally binding for each party. There's an annual review, and this is stipulated in each of the development agreements. This is per the government code. So the government code and the terms of the development agreements require the city to periodically review development agreements. And these are to determine if the applicant has complied with the terms of the agreement. It's supposed to be conducted every 12 months. And the developer is required to demonstrate good faith compliance with the terms of the agreement. So this would be the conditions of approval of the agreement, where we would go through it, staff needs to go through it and determine whether they've complied with those conditions and whether they're still in good faith compliance. And if they do not meet those requirements, then it would be referred to the City Council for appropriate action at that time. So this is an aerial, and I apologize, it's a little fuzzy to see on the LED screens, but what is highlighted for you in color around the city is all of the areas that are in development agreements. pretty much all of our undeveloped areas are all in development agreements. And it's even a bit harder to see, but the city limits is outlined for you in red. So we'll start off with our first development agreement. It's a pre-annexation development agreement, and this is located, it's Stone Creek Pre-Annexation Development Agreement. It's located south of Walmart, so it's really the southwest end of town. It's our most southwestern border of our city limits. And it is also south of Prairie Springs Road, north of Pioneer Road, and west of Ortigalita Road, and east of the Los Banos Creek. Now, the Stone Creek Pre-Annexation Development Agreement was approved by the City Council on May 5th, 2004. It's between the City of Los Banos and Anderson Homes, a California corporation. And the project consisted of guiding development for approximately 493 acres in the southwestern part of the city. And it included annexation of about 401 acres at that time. So currently, to give you a status update on what's happening in this particular pre-annexation development agreement, there are currently 5 approved tentative tract maps associated with this pre-annexation development agreement. Also, you may have heard in the past us refer to this as an area plan. That was the whole area that was annexed into the city. And that was approximately 344.43 acres. That is in tentative map right now. And I'm going to go jumping ahead, but further on in my presentation is each of those tentative maps. So it's villages at Stone Creek 1, villages 2, villages 2A and 3 at Stone Creek, and villages 4, and then Quail Meadows at Stone Creek, which is 5. This particular development agreement expires May 5th, 2019. And after review of the project and the applicable documents, staff found that it was in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So next we'll go on to number 2, which is Village Green.
Can I ask you, how many potential lots are within that development?
You know, that's a good question. I should have had that prepared for you. I would say that, well, 1 and 2 is built out, and let's go back. Well, 1 and 2 is built out, and that is Teal Landing, just north of Cardozo Road, Olivera Park, to put that into perspective. And then villages 2A and 3, I'll get into that, and I'll actually specifically tell you how many lots are in those specific tentative maps.
Okay.
So you'll be able to get a ballpark figure once I get into each of the tentative maps. So next is Village Green. This is on the northwest end of the city of Los Banos, our most northwest border. It's west of Nantes Road, north of Overland Avenue, and east of Johnson Road. And the development agreement was approved by the council February 2nd, 2005, and it's between the city of Los Banos and Orchard Terrace LLC, a limited liability company. And the project consisted of subdividing approximately 14 acres into 45 single-family residential lots, and it included a third of an acre neighborhood park and a couple of linear parks as well within there. There is a tentative tract map that is approved for this particular project for the 45 lots, and a final map has been recorded for this particular project, and the improvements have been accepted by the city. But no building permits have been issued yet at this particular subdivision. The DA, the development agreement, expires March 4th, 2015, which is today. And after review of the project and applicable documents, staff believes that is in good faith compliance, and the terms and the conditions of the development agreement have been made. So the city has already accepted the streets, sidewalks, all of the improvements, and essentially our contract with the developer has been met. There are no outstanding obligations that need to be met, and building permits could be pulled essentially tomorrow if need be, if the developer so chooses, because it is ready for development. Okay, so next is number 3 is the provinces. And this is on the east side of Los Banos. It would be north of Pacheco High School.
Stacy, back to that one. So what happens with that expiration date? It expires today, so
really the only terms that would expire in this particular instance, the tentative map, it's already done and recorded, so the life of the development agreement in that particular instance, it really doesn't matter. What the development agreement did, it froze the fees, the impact fees at that time that development agreement was signed. So essentially tomorrow, if they were to pull a building permit, it would be today's fees.
Okay, very good.
So the benefit to the city is to not extend the development agreement.
Okay.
So next, the provinces is the east side of Los Banos. It's north of Pacheco High School and the Verona Mission Estates. It is, it dead ends into Ward Road, and it's that future subdivision. So if you were to drive north on Ward Road, it would dead end into the province's subdivision. So, back up. So the development agreement was approved by the City Council on May 5th, 2005. And this agreement is between the city and Meadowlands Estates, LLC. The project is for the subdivision of about 109 acres into 261 single-family residential lots, 123 senior courtyard lots, a townhouse lot for 116 multifamily units, 2 public parks, a public park basin, and 2 common senior development lots. A tentative tract map has been approved for a portion of the project area, which is the single-family residential lots, the 261 single-family residential lots. However, a final map has not yet been recorded. This particular development agreement does expire May 5th, 2015, so the date is coming up, but the tentative map would have a life of another 12 months beyond the development agreement, so it would expire May 5th, 2016. So staff, in the review of this particular development agreement, found that it was in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So moving on to the next development agreement, we have the Spadaford-Giannone Pre-Annexation Development Agreement. This is located south of Kmart, west of College Greens. This would be north of Mercy Springs Elementary School and Scripps Drive, and it's bordered by Mercy Springs on the west side. So this particular pre-annexation development agreement was approved by the City of Los Banos December 13th, 2005. It's between the city and B&G Holdings Limited, and the project was for the annexation and pre-zoning of 37.6 acres for the potential development of 151 single-family residential lots and 48 medium-density lots with 4.75 acres allocated for 3 parks and a basin. A tentative map was approved for the project area, and I'm going to explain the tentative map going on in my presentation. It's Shaughnessy Village. And the final map, however, was not yet recorded, and that particular development agreement was never signed or recorded, so the tentative map would actually expire October 24th, 2015. And this is actually because of the Subdivision Map Act, AB 116, excuse me, actually extended, because of the recession, extended the lives of maps. So this particular map would be expiring this year, and upon expiration, the developer would need to reapply for entitlements. So the particular development agreement, though, for the pre-annexation development agreement would expire December 13th, 2020, and this particular pre-annexation development agreement is in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So moving on. So this is going back to the Stone Creek area plan, the Stone Creek pre-annexation development agreement. This is villages 2A and 3.
I'm sorry, can you go back to the one right before that?
Sure.
Explain to me what it says that they would need, after October 24th of 2015, they would need to reapply for the entitlements. What?
That would be for the tentative map. So they have a tentative map that subdivides the property. It has not been recorded yet, and that particular tentative map will expire in October. So the development agreement will still be alive and well, but because the development agreement, this is the pre-annexation development agreement, but because the development agreement for that tentative map was never signed, it's as if it never happened. So it does not extend the life of that map. When that map expires, it's done.
And so what exactly are the entitlements?
The entitlements are the map, the subdivision map, the tentative map. The entitlement for Spatafor Giannone was an annexation. The annexation part does not go away. It's annexed into the city. It's in our corporate city limits. And I'm kind of jumping ahead, and I'm sorry to confuse you, but that would be, I will discuss this further on Shaughnessy Village.
Thank you.
So, villages 2A and 3. This particular subdivision is located south of Walmart and west of Badger Flat Road. And this development agreement is with the City of Los Banos and Larry W. Anderson and Georgianne M. Anderson, and it was approved by the city on June 15, 2005. This particular subdivision is 79.7 acres, and it was subdivided into 287 single-family residential lots, 1 church, and 2 park lots. So that's what the tentative map was for. And that particular tentative map was approved for the whole project area. However, only villages 2A of that project has been recorded, and out of that, only 56 lots have been developed and they're occupied, which leaves 99 undeveloped lots for a total of 155 lots. The remaining unrecorded portion of villages 3 consists of 132 undeveloped lots. And this particular development agreement does expire this July, and the current property owner is asking for an extension, which will be coming to you in about 2 weeks for the development agreement, and staff is currently working on that proposal. And the request is for an extension for 5 years. And then this particular development agreement, these are kind of our new era development agreements. And in this one particularly, the fees are not frozen at the time that the development agreement was entered into. So the fees are at today's date. So in the city's perspective, the property owner had asked for the extension. It's really so that they have time to record the unrecorded piece of the property, villages 3, so that they would have 5 years, depending on the market, to be able to record that. And the city felt that, there was no need not to extend that, as the fees are the same as, they're not frozen. So, and with that, staff believes that the applicant is in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So on villages 2A, the part that is recorded, that piece has been, the improvements have been accepted by the city. So the streets, sidewalks, street lights, those have all been accepted. The piece that's not recorded, none of that has been accepted by the city, and that needs to be recorded. And then our Public Works Department will do an inspection and determine what needs to be fixed, and when it's fixed, then it'll be ready to be accepted by the city. Any questions on?
This Villages at Stone Creek 2A and 3 it's a piece of the Stone Creek pre-annexation, the first one we looked at.
Yes.
So what happens if, I guess, could you explain again why, if the fees are not locked in, why are they interested in the extension?
And Mr. Funk can speak to, he's actually processing the extension.
Okay.
Well, that seems like an easy question, but it's not. So I'm going to have to give you a little bit of a refresher on dividing land in the state of California. In order to subdivide land, there's especially anytime you're dividing a piece of land into more than 4 parcels, you have to follow the Subdivision Map Act, which is basically a 2-step process. First, you process your temporary map or your tentative map. And that's what Stacy's been talking about. And your tentative map has a limited life. It's very expensive to process the tentative map because it's basically the entire layout of the infrastructure of the soon-to-be development. So there goes through a lot of work to get your tentative map, which lays out the division of the land. But you're not allowed to get your final map, which gives you marketable title to those lots to sell them to people to build houses on, until you've either installed or constructed all of the improvements required by the tentative map: streets, sidewalks, sewers, storm drain, all of those things. And so what a developer is attempting to do through the tentative map in this particular instance is to extend the life of the map so they don't have to put in all of those improvements so before they can finalize the map and get their final map. And so what we're looking at is trying to extend that for them. Now, one of the things the development agreement does is it automatically extends a tentative map. So that's the benefit to the developer to enter into the development agreement, because a tentative map has a life of 3 years with 2 one-year extensions. So it gives you 5 years to do all of the improvements you need to do to get a final map so that you can sell those lots. In the current economy, it's so expensive to develop these parcels that none of these tentative maps are moving towards a final map. So the benefit, again, of the overlying development agreement is it extends that time. Most of our development agreements are 10 to 15 years. So the tentative map, instead of having a life of 5 years, has a life of 15 years plus 1. So in this particular development, we have a pre-annexation agreement that covers the entire area. The terms of the pre-annexation agreement are that there'll be individual development agreements for each development within that area. So there's, I think there's 3 right now, 3 or 4 right now within that larger area.
Mm-hmm.
So your original question was why
the extension? But so they don't have to go through the process of...
So they don't have to go through the expense of getting to the final map and have a bunch of final lots and nobody to sell them to, number one. Number two, in order to do that, they would dedicate those improvements to the city. The city would then be charged with the upkeep and the maintenance of the streets, gutters, sidewalks, with nobody living out there. So in this particular case, they have an area plan that develops basically a master plan for that entire area. The part in yellow that you're seeing are in conformance with that master plan. So if the map expired, they'd have to go through the whole process again and bring you back an identical map to what they already have out there.
So it's really in their best interest, but ours too, to extend.
There's no reason for us to process a duplicate map again and have them go through the expense. And this will be coming to you in a couple of weeks, and there are some benefits that we've negotiated out of extending it as well that I can discuss at that time.
Okay, thank you.
So as City Manager Kerrigan had just whispered in my ear, the sidewalks out there that are poured, at the time we accept that development, it will be accepted under the premise that all the sidewalks are in good condition, and then the developer would have to replace anything that's damaged out there. And this way, it's not our problem, it's the developers until we accept it.
Yes, so the Public Works Department inspector would go through the subdivision prior to us accepting.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Okay. So then, and I don't know if I was able to mention, so this does expire July 15, 2015, so we're working on that extension, and staff does believe that this is in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So moving on, this is Villages 4, and this is south of Cardozo Road and west of Ortigalita Road and east of Badger Flat Road and north of Pioneer Road, and that's highlighted for you in green. It's just really southwest of Villages 2A and 3. And this development...
Stacy, could you repeat the parameters again, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
It is south of Cardozo Road, west of Ortigalita Road, east of Badger Flat, and north of Pioneer Road. So it is just southeast of villages 2A and 3. And most commonly known, Olivera Park is out in that particular tentative map, and it's those houses surrounding, south of Cardoza surrounding Olivera Park. And this particular development agreement was approved by the City Council on the same date that villages 2A and 3 was approved. This is June 15, 2005. And it's between the City of Los Banos and Larry Anderson and Georgianne Anderson and Anderson Homes. And the project consisted of the subdivision of about 125 acres into 309 single-family residential lots, 1 school lot, and 4 park lots. The particular school lot has been moved. This particular school lot was did not work out for the school district and was moved up just north of this along Prairie Springs Road, and my highlighter is not going to work for you, but it is just north of this, and it's south of the Target and Lowe's building along Prairie Springs. So the tentative map was approved for the portion of the project area, and it has been recorded. So let's back up. The tentative map was approved for the whole project area, but a final map has only been recorded for certain phases of the project. And there are currently 16 developed lots and 77 undeveloped lots for a total of 93 recorded lots. And the remaining portion to still be recorded consists of about 216 undeveloped lots. This particular development agreement expires July 15th, 2015. I do have a request for an extension from Anderson Homes, and so staff is processing that. If the extension was not granted, the tentative map would expire July 15, 2016. So moving on to Quail Meadows at Stone Creek. Now I'm actually jumping ahead because I thought for the sake of the PowerPoint to keep them together. So this is actually number 12 in your staff report. And this is Quail Meadows, also referred to as Stone Creek 5. This is on the northwest of the villages at Stone Creek, 2A and 3, and it's east of the Los Banos Creek. And it's a unique shape, and it's highlighted in pink on the LED screens. And that particular subdivision was approved, the development agreement was approved by the City Council October 17, 2007. It's between the City of Los Banos and Larry Anderson and Anderson Homes. And the project consists of the subdivision of 5 parcels totaling about 76 acres into 53 single-family homes, a professional office complex, a church lot, a public park, and 2 lots for future residential subdivision. The tentative tract map was approved for that particular project area. However, the final map has never been recorded. And this particular development agreement does expire November 17th, 2017, which would mean that the tentative map would expire a year later, November 17th, 2018. Staff did find that this particular development agreement is in good faith and compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So moving on. Is the Villas. And the Villas is located on the south side of Los Banos, and it's north of Pioneer Road, east of Center Avenue, and southwest of Crest Hill subdivision. That development agreement was approved by the city on January 18, 2006, and it's between the City of Los Banos and Ranchwood Homes Corporation. And the project is for the subdivision of approximately 39 acres into single-family residential lots, a senior courtyard, a lot for multifamily units, public park lots, a public park basin lot, and a common senior development lots. There is a tentative map, and that is for the area highlighted in blue on the LED screen. However, a final map has not yet been recorded. And this particular development agreement expires April 3rd, 2016, and the tentative map will expire April 3rd, 2017. And so staff finds that the applicant is in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So moving on, this is Mission Village South, which is located north of East B Street, and Wilmot Road actually goes through this particular subdivision. It's east of Mercy Springs Road, south of Mission Drive, and west of Place Road. And this particular development agreement was approved by the City Council on October 17, 2001. It's between the City of Los Banos and Mission Village, LLC, and Anderson Homes, Incorporated. And the project is for the development of 79.9 acres into 179 single-family residential lots. And there is a tentative tract map which was approved for the Anderson Homes portion of this particular development agreement, which is actually the south of the southern portion. If you look at that like a, let's see, like an L, it'd be the bottom part of the L that is developed and does have a tentative map that is recorded. And that is for 26 developed lots is currently out there and 69 undeveloped lots for a total of 95 recorded lots. And then the remaining portion of that project has not been recorded, and that's the Ranchwood Homes portion of the development agreement, and that consists of 84 undeveloped lots. So this particular development agreement expires November 17th, 2016, and it was found in good faith compliance to meet the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So moving on to Mission Village North, which is just north of Mission Village South. This particular subdivision is north of Mission Drive, west of Place Road, and Overland Avenue does go through this particular subdivision. And this development agreement was entered into with the City of Los Banos on October 17, 2001, and it's with the City and Mission Village LLC, a limited liability company, and it's for the development of 48.5 acres into 211 single-family residential lots. A tentative map has been approved, and a final map has been recorded for the entire subdivision. And the project consists of 113 developed lots and 98 undeveloped lots so far. So moving on to Regency Park. This particular subdivision is located off of Rockport Drive, west of Place Road, east of Mercy Springs Road, and south of Cardinal Street. And this development agreement was approved by the City of Los Banos on October 17, 2001. It's between the City of Los Banos and Northgate at Regency 1 and 2, LLC. And the project's for the development of 90 acres into 350 single-family residential lots. A tentative map has been approved, and a final map was recorded for the entire project area. The project area currently consists of 204 developed lots and 146 undeveloped lots. And most recently, there is development occurring here in this particular subdivision. 9 permits were issued for this particular subdivision. However, none have been finalized for occupancy. And this particular subdivision, the development agreement expires November 17th, 2016. And staff did find that it was in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So moving on, Northgate at Regency Park 2 is just north of the Regency Park subdivision, and it is located west of Westminster Way, north of Cardinal Street, and it goes as far north as Quayle Street. And it is it was adopted by the City of Los Banos October 17, 2001. It's between the City of Los Banos and Northgate at Regency Park 2, LLC. And the project's for the development of 51 acres into 216 single-family residential lots. And all permits in this particular subdivision have been issued, and all of the subdivision improvements have been accepted by the city. So this project is completely built out and finished. However, this particular development agreement does expire November 17, 2016. Staff does find that it is in good faith compliance.
if it's completely built out, why is it still on the books?
Why do we discuss it? It's because it hasn't expired yet. They've met all the terms and conditions. It's still on the books, but essentially it's done and complete.
Okay. So it's because it hasn't expired yet?
Yeah, it's still
has to be
on
reviewed.
our books, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So it's in good faith compliance. So moving on is Shaughnessy Village, and this is the part of the Spatafor Giannone pre-annexation development that I had previously brought up to you. So discussing this particular tentative map and where it's located. So it's a part of that annexation. It's south of Kmart, and it is an unsigned development agreement. So technically, it really doesn't exist because it's never been recorded. It hasn't been signed. It hasn't been recorded. It's not a legal document. So we do have it, though. Should the developer come back, we could potentially bring it back to life if we could sign it and record it with the City Council's approval. So this particular agreement's between the City of Los Banos and Downtown Gateway. It was approved by the City Council on December 19, 2007. And it is also with Modesto Gateway LLC and Mercy Springs LLC. So there's various property owners in this particular agreement, which was never signed. So the project consists of about 33.6 acres for the subdivision of 107 single-family residential lots and 44 medium-density single-family residential lots. There is a public lot, and that was intended for a daycare or similar type uses. And then there's 2 parks and a park basin and 2 landscaped areas that were designated in that particular tentative map. So that tract map was approved for the project area. It has not been recorded. And as I was explaining with the Spatafor Giannone pre-annexation development agreement, because this is related to that, that tentative map would expire October 24th, 2015. And upon its expiration, the developer would need to reapply for tentative map entitlements. The annexation doesn't go away, but the map would. So moving on to Villa Barano pre-annexation. This pre-annexation is actually, in terms of residential annexations, it's one of our newest or latest annexations, and it's on the east side of town. It's west of the Santa Fe Canal and our wastewater treatment plant. It's north of the Provinces subdivision, and it's east of Place Road. And this development agreement was between the City of Los Banos and Danville Land Investments LLC, and this was adopted September 19, 2008. And this annexation was for pre-zoning and a general plan amendment, and it consisted of also an area plan for the potential development and use of approximately 117.75 acres. There are currently no tentative maps on this particular area plan, and this development agreement expires September 19th, 2028. This particular development agreement is in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So essentially, this particular pre-annexation development agreement is just waiting for mapping to occur, for tentative maps to be submitted by the developer, and to continue on that process of the life of planning out that entire master plan area. So moving on. The question?
Yes, on the other projects that you spoke of, if my memory serves me correctly, were most of the agreements 15 years?
Most of the agreements are actually 10 years. There are some that are 15 years.
So how did this one end up being 20 years?
And Mr. Vonk, please.
This one, anytime you see one titled pre-annexation development agreement, which this is one, correct?
Yes.
The pre-annexation development agreement was kind of a different tool that the city used, so that when someone wanted to annex a large tract of land into the city, we would require them to enter into a pre-annexation development agreement that gave them 0 entitlements, and that they would have to then enter into what we called a second-tier development agreement to actually start mapping the property. So what we the intent of the pre-annexation agreement was for the city to have control over the pace of the development in a newly annexed piece of property into the city. So this is similar to the Stone Creek pre-annexation agreement, when we were bringing in a large tract of property that they weren't ready to show us what they were going to do with it. The city agreed to annex it, but that they would have to go through certain hoops. The biggest hoops would be to negotiate a development agreement within that green area as one of the major requirements of the pre-annexation development agreement, if that makes sense. So it's to the best interest of the city to have that pre-annexation development agreement have a life much longer than what our normal development agreements would be, because it would require the developer to jump through those hoops when they're ready to develop a newly annexed piece of property. Does that answer the question?
To kind of just piggyback off of our city attorney, it's really a master plan. That area plan is a master plan, and it guides the future development so that when those particular tentative maps or the maps are ready to be subdivided, it's planned out. It has a general plan amendment, so the vision of the city is in coordination with the master plan that's already out there. So it's not a guessing game for the developer. They know exactly what they need to do to get it ready to go, ready to subdivide. So the AMPM.
Stacy? Do you know when that last one was annexed into the city, the pre-annexation agreement, the Villa Burano one?
The Villa Burano was annexed September 19, 2008,
okay, thank you.
roughly-ish. That's when it was adopted by the city. It still goes through a LAFCO process, so that would have been a couple months later or so. So probably in early 2009, it would have been officially annexed by the city and detached from Merced County.
Thank you.
So the next one is AMPM McDonald's pre-annexation. This particular pre-annexation development agreement is located on the northwest corner of Badger Flat Road in 152. And as we most know, this is developed, built out, and all the improvements have been accepted by the city. This particular development agreement was approved January 18, 2012. It's between the City of Los Banos and California Gold Development Company. It does expire January 18, 2022, and there are still some obligations on this development, this pre-annexation development agreement, once future development does occur in that area. So there are still some obligations out there, even though it is built out, that the developer does need to abide by. But it is in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement thus far. So moving on to Ronnie's pre-annexation development agreement, also one of our newer annexations. This particular annexation was adopted by the city on August 21st, 2013. It's just north of the AMPM McDonald's. It's west of Badger Flat Road, and it is the headquarters for Ronnie's Landscaping. At the time, Ronnie needed to annex into the city in order to connect to our city water services. And Merced County and the City of Los Banos decided that the best solution would be to have that particular 1 acre parcel annexed into the city to provide those municipal services. And the agreements between the City of Los Banos and LB Property Management, Inc., which is Ronnie Navarro as the president, and the project was for the annexation of 15901 Badger Flat Road. This particular agreement has no term for expiration and is valid until it's modified or terminated by written mutual consent of the parties. Essentially, until future development occurs in this particular parcel or in this particular area, then once development does occur, Ronnie would be required to meet the requirements of the development agreement and the conditions within. So after review of this particular development agreement, staff believes that it's in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of the development agreement. So we're getting close to the end, I promise. This is AMG Industrial Pre-Annexation. This is our last annexation that we recently that the City Council recently adopted, and it is going through the LAFCO process. This is 28 acres, and it's located on the southeast corner of Johnson Road and Overland Road. And it was adopted by the city on January 7th, 2015. It's between the City of Los Banos and AMG and Associates. So it's 28 acres, 28 and a half acres for the future industrial development. And this particular pre-annexation development agreement is currently being circulated. It hasn't been recorded yet. It will be recorded once it is approved by LAFCO. So it's kind of in a pending process stage right now. So moving on, I did list some recently expired development agreements, and just so I could give you the status of where those particular subdivisions are at. This particular one is Orchard Terrace 2, and it's east of that AMG industrial annexation, and it's south of Overland Road. This particular development agreement, it was approved by the city October 26, 2004. It's between the City of Los Banos and Orchard Terrace Estates, LLC. It's for the development of about 18 acres into 78 single-family residential lots, including 2 small play lots. And all 78 permits have been issued for this particular subdivision. However, 29 units have not been finalized for occupancy. They are near. Steve and I actually drove through this subdivision today. I would say there's a handful of already sold lots, which is exciting, and there's construction workers out there. Each lot has, looks like a pad is out there, poured foundations out there. So they're moving pretty swiftly on this one. It did expire November 3rd, 2014. And that it did expire is not really much of concern of the city. The lots were recorded. All that it really meant to the developer was that there are fees that were frozen at the time that that particular development agreement was entered into, which was in 2004. Those frozen fees don't apply. But this particular developer pooled all of those permits prior to that development agreement expiring on November 3rd. So they were able to come in on those frozen fees because they knew their development agreement was expiring. So with that, they are in good faith, still in good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of their development agreement. And then another recently expired development agreement was for a pre-annexation development agreement. This is East Mercy Springs. And this particular development agreement, it's our last one, and it was adopted November 3rd, 2004 between the City of Los Banos and College Estates, LLC. And where this one is located is on the south side of town. It's north of Pioneer Road, east of Mercy Springs Road, and south of New Bethany, and also College Green subdivision. And this particular pre-zoning, this pre-annexation development agreement was for the pre-zoning and potential development of about 20 acres, and the development potential would be about 90 single-family dwelling units. No tentative tract map was ever approved for this particular pre-annexation development agreement area, and so therefore it did expire December 3rd, 2014. It is annexed into the city. That annexation never goes away, but if this particular area would like to be developed, the property owners would like to develop it, they would need to come to the city with a new tentative map and process that. So with that, public notice was published in the Los Banos Enterprise on January 23rd, 2015, and notices were sent out to each of the developers within these development agreements, and also the staff report was also sent out to each of the developers, and no comments were received. So with that, staff is asking that the City Council adopt the resolution which approves the annual review of the development agreements and finding good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of those said development agreements.
Barry?
Stacy, thank you for the presentation. This is an annual presentation that will be given in January from here on out. It's an extensive presentation. We have a lot of inventory, but let me try and put it in perspective for you. Over the last 6 years, we've issued 8 building permits. This year, conservatively, we were talking about this earlier because we did drive around, we looked at some houses under construction. We think we're in the 40 to 50 range this year conservatively. So have we turned the corner? We're going to find out. This, hopefully by Labor Day, September, October, we'll be able to come back with a presentation and tell you how the summer went. But right now, we're optimistic and that things are getting better in Los Banos. And if we can get the construction industries working, the trades working, people have more money in their pocket, they'll go out to restaurants more, they'll go to Home Depot, or they'll improve their houses, they'll upgrade the things that they put off for years, and everyone wins. So it's a step in the right direction, but I want to tell Stacy thank you, and like I said, we will be seeing this presentation in January versus March every year. So thank you.
Mrs. Lewis?
Thank you. Stacy, thank you for the extensive report. A couple of things that came to my mind is looking at all of these projects, including projects that were unsigned and expired. We're looking at some 19 parks and 3 water catch basins. And, you know, with the idea that we're going into the 5th year of drought, I'm not sure exactly what these water basins are producing other than us having to put a lot of grass out there and water it and pay to have it mowed. With the Spanish-Ford pre-annexation agreement and Shaughnessy, which is unsigned but can come back to the city, we're looking at 2 catch basins and 5 parks. So I don't know if legally we can do anything to work with these developers, but my opinion would be is that we need to reduce these parks. It's my understanding that we're way over the number of parks that our city is required to have, you know, by state law. So over where the Anderson homes are, we have that large park on Ortigalita, and where the Spafford homes are going and the Shaughnessy, if it gets signed, we've got the big park over at Scripps. So to me, it just doesn't seem reasonable to add all these parks into our city. That could be more homes for people to purchase if the developers choose to develop those areas. So that's just my opinion. I just think we have enough parks already here in the city of Los Banos to accommodate the residents that we have here. And that's it. Thank you.
Are there in lieu fees if they can still pay for
Yes.
not to?
Yes, they would still pay in their in lieu fees. Now, I'm sure Mark is going to speak on the storm drain infrastructure.
I definitely, from a maintenance point of view, agree with you on the parks, and I think that can be revisited as they come in. In fact, I think we'd like to revisit it to cut them down. Storm drain basins are a different story. They're not set up by green space requirements. They're set up by the storm drain system and our requirement of discharge into either the grasslands or into ZCID ditches, and we have agreements of how much we can discharge into those facilities. So we do have to retain water based on those agreements. It's required. And our storm system can't maintain the discharge. It's just too much water. So we got to kind of separate those two. They're joint uses. They don't have to be joint uses, but with a large basin, it does look better if there's some greenery there. But the park situation, yes, I do agree with you at this time.
Any more questions? All right. Motion? Anyone? Mr. Faria?
If there are no further questions, I'll move to adopt City Council Resolution.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I just, presentation was so long and interesting that I forgot about the public forum. All right. All right. We now need to have a public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to speak on City Council Resolution, the adoption of City Council Resolution number 5642, please come forward. I will now open the public hearing. Come on. Anyone? No, sit down. No, anyone who would like to come up. Thank you. Okay, I will now close the public hearing, bring it back to council level. And Mr. Faria.
I'll move to adopt City Council Resolution Number 5642 as read by title.
Mrs. Lewis.
I'll second the motion.
It's a motion by Faria, second by Lewis, to adopt City Council Resolution Number 5642, approving the annual review of development agreements and finding good faith compliance with the terms and conditions of said development agreements. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Carried. All right. Let's go on to public hearing to receive public comment and consideration of adoption of new donation collection boxes permit fee. And we will go to anyone who wants to talk? Yes? Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one will go much quicker, and I hope it's a little bit more interesting. So on January 21st, 2015, the City Council adopted ordinance number 1126 to provide for regulation of unattended donation collection boxes. And within that particular ordinance, it stated that a non-refundable fee in the amount established by a resolution of the City Council would need to be adopted. And in addition to any fee or tax imposed by the city pursuant to any other provisions of the municipal code. So staff conducted a fee study of the calculated what the following cost of processing the donation bin collection boxes and the permit application would really consist of. And what we did was we put the hourly wage costs, including staff's benefits, and the tasks that would be associated with providing those donation collection box permit applications. And so we broke it down between initial applications and it does go through the process of the particular staff persons, which are review application, check for completeness, and also it even includes the cost of the stickers. So for the initial application, we're requesting, it came out to about $181.51, and so what we're asking is that this fee be set for a non-refundable initial application of $182 to recoup all of the city's costs. And then for the renewal of the application, so this would be each year, this was broken down and it came out to about $55.77. So we're asking that each annual renewal be accompanied by $56 to cover all of staff's time and the materials associated with each of those donation collection box permits. Now, the fiscal impact, the intent of this, these permit fees are so that the revenue is neutral to the city and it's to cover all of our costs associated with processing those permits. So there's no burden on the general fund. So with that, we're requesting that the City Council adopt resolution number 5643, establishing permit fees for the administration and issuance of donation collection boxes. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. And each donation collection box, again, will have to be approved by the city and the location, is that correct?
Yes, it will.
Okay. And all of the ones that that are currently in place now will be permitted?
They will need to apply for their permit. As thus far, there has not been any applications. The ordinance is, it has gone into effect. The 30 days has gone into effect. However, there's an implementation period of 60 days after that 30-day effective date. So the current box owners do have the opportunity to come in and apply for those permits. They have 60 days to do so. So we needed to establish this fee in order to be able to collect those applications, and I have not received any applications yet.
Okay. If I remember right, wasn't there one other than Use Again? There was someone else who had a box and they were located kind of close together according to our ordinance?
Yes, so that was at the Mi Barrio and then the church on the backside. and I have not heard from Use Again on that particular site, and I have not heard from the church on that particular site.
Okay, but it will fall within compliance of what we approved so
Yes,
far?
it essentially would
Okay.
come down to a first come, first serve.
Okay,
And whoever gets issued first
Yeah.
will take that particular area.
excellent, excellent, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Lewis, question?
I think that you brought the situation up that I was going to ask
Okay.
the question of about those two boxes that are close together. You know,
All right.
if there had been a permit pulled for either one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, just as long as we fall within what we approved, that's great. Okay, Mrs. Stonegrove?
I just have a question. The fees for these permits are going to be per location, not per individual
They're not
box.
per box, they're per location. So it's only one permit is needed, and you can have up to 3 boxes at a location.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, are there any other questions? Do I have a motion? Oh, gee, I did it again. I'm sorry. Public hearing, I would now like to open a public hearing in relationship to City Council Resolution Number 5643. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public hearing, bring it back to council level, and now we can vote.
I have a comment just to make,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention for the record that Use Again did write an email to staff and appreciated the work that's gone into the ordinance and this particular resolution, and felt that it was applicable, that the fees were fine.
I saw that. We don't usually get a letter saying the fees are okay. No. Mrs. Lewis?
Well, if there are no more comments, I'd like to make a recommend, I'll recommend that we adopt resolution number 5643, establishing permit fees for the administration and insurance of donation/collection boxes.
Okay, Mr. Silvera?
A second.
Okay, motion by Lewis, second by Silvera to approve City Council Resolution Number 5643 as read. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Okay, we will now take a 5-minute break and right back. Okay, welcome back. And we are on item 9, consideration of adoption of City Council Resolution number 5644, adopting a revised budget for the 2014-2000 fiscal year as it pertains to expenditures. And we'll go to Finance Director Williams.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, I will be presenting a status update on the 2014-15 fiscal year budget and ask that council adopt Resolution 5644 revising the fiscal year budget. However, before I start, I would like to congratulate my staff for once again receiving the award in budgeting excellence, presented by the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers. This certificate recognizes excellent achievement in operational budgeting and reflects an outstanding budget document and the budget process. We have actually been awarded this certificate for the past 11 years. And so, again, I'd like to thank my staff for all their hard work, especially Kim Tomas, Rosemary Soto. They couldn't be here tonight. They're a little under the weather. And then, of course, Martha Brazil. The mid-year budget process allows council to take a detailed look at where we are and allows staff to true up budget numbers for accounts that may be over or underperforming. Tonight I plan to focus on the proposed adjustments needed not only for the general fund, but all other funds as well. I will also be discussing the status of Measure P, Measure K, and the landscape and lighting districts. It's, I made these slides smaller this year and you still can't see them, but you do have copies up in front of you. Beginning with the general fund revenues, sales tax are collected on a monthly basis. As you can see, to date we've collected $994,000, which is about 35% of what we budgeted, but that is only for revenues through October, which puts us right on track with the estimated budget amount of $2.7 million. Property tax payments are generally received in December or January, and then again in May or June. This year's payment was received in January, so I included it here even though we're looking at mid-year through December, just to give us an idea of where we are. There is actually an 11% increase in property taxes for the current fiscal year. This increase is primarily based on property that did not change ownership, however was assessed at a much lower value, and whose values were then reassessed at or near full market value. Prop 13, as we all know, caps increases in property values at 2% with reassessments at full market value, but only upon change of ownership. So this 11% increase that we're talking about are for properties that didn't change ownership, and therefore the cap does not apply to them. So because of this, we are not expecting to see this on an ongoing basis. This is a one-time true-up, if you want to call it that, to get us back to where realistically property values should be. We will more likely go back to receiving 2 to 4% increases on an annual basis. Property taxes in lieu of VLF have not been received as of December. Property taxes in lieu of sales tax were received in February, and we're right at about 56%, which is on track with what we're anticipating. Going back to the property in lieu of VLF, we should actually see an increase in that as well. That goes along with the 11% increase in regular property taxes. Franchise fees for Comcast and Pacific Bell are received on a quarterly basis, but PG&E pays annually in April. That's why you see this 14%. But we are, again, on track with what we should be at this point. The transient occupancy tax is a 10% rate charged by occupants of the hotel for lodging fees. This is collected on a quarterly basis. It's only at 38% because we've only collected for the first quarter. Moving on to the next slide, business licenses are collected on a monthly basis, with the largest portion being collected in December, and that's why we're at 51%, right about where we should be. Permits are very high, as you can see. Given the 6 months, we've already exceeded where we should be at 108%. Permits are required to build, alter, repair, or demolish structures. This includes a variety of permits. Some of the higher value permits that we've seen pulled for the first 6 months were for Orchard Terrace 2, We had about $47,000 for the first 6 months. Solar City, various permits, almost $16,000, and Regency Park, $16,500. So we're doing really good there, and further on in the presentation, you'll see that we'll ask for an increase for expenses that are associated with these revenues. Documentary stamp tax is for any transfer of property, including property sales, and that's right where we should be. Planning fees, it's at 30%, but again, some of that is paid at final, and a lot of what's in there right now is for Orchard Terrace 2. In addition to the increase in property taxes, we have or expect to receive approximately $364,000 in additional revenue that was not included in the budget. Some of these include strike team fires, which we budgeted $10,000, not knowing how many fires there'll be in a year, and at this point we've invoiced up to about $142,000 for strike team reimbursement. Property tax admin fee, which we anticipated to get last year, didn't come until this year. That was $108,000. And then there's fiscal agent admin cost. For those of you that are aware, if you remember, we are now the fiscal agent for both the Los Banos DLA and the City of Merced DLA, and we charge them about $12,000 every 6 months, and that wasn't included in the budget originally. So part of that 364 includes that. There's also a few other things like booking fees, prisoner care, things that we didn't anticipate and are already exceeding our expectations. Moving on to expenditures. Overall, again, these are expenditures for the general fund. Overall, general fund expenditures are right on track for the year, which was actually quite surprising to finance staff. Pleasant to hear, but quite surprising. So really, there's nothing that's too big of a surprise. We'll have a few adjustments for things that happen or that we're anticipating will happen, but the biggest increase here is community development and building, and as I said, those increases have to do with some of the permits that were pulled and the expenditures that are associated with them.
Does that include overtime in the 47%?
Yes. Are you looking at
fire and police?
Yes, it does include overtime in the 47%, wow. And we actually be asking for an increase for police and fire because we want to better, for fire, because we want to better reflect where we are. And when we do send people out on strike team, it kind of skews it, so we want to add those strike team costs back into it, so we'll give them a more accurate picture of where we'll be. So you'll see that coming up.
Thank you.
Additional expenditure accounts include recreation, maintenance, community center. Those are all right on track with spending. Transfers out include fire and police CFDs as well as the COPS grant. And basically the general fund subsidizes these accounts because they are deficit spending. We do expense out on a monthly basis for the CFD accounts, which is about $19,000 for fire and about $7,500 for police. And we are only at 22% because we don't add the COPS program grant back into or take it out of the general fund until the end of the year so we could get a more accurate picture. The contingency fund, which is reserved for unexpected expenses, has remained untouched for the first half of the fiscal year, which is good news and Steve is quite proud of, but he doesn't know I used it in January. But anyway, moving on. Total expenditures for the year were originally budgeted at $10,892,556, which was 47%. We are asking that be increased, and those increases include $7,800 for administration, which are projects that happened at City Hall, unexpected projects, plumbing costs, and air conditioner needing replacement in the break room. Good news. We're asking that we increase the general fund budget by $119,143 to move a police officer out of Measure K and back into the general fund. We're asking, again, like I spoke about the strike team, that we increase fire's overtime budget along with some insurance costs in there by $15,462 to get a better picture of where they are overtime excluding strike team. We would like to increase building budget by $51,000, and this is, as I spoke, about permits. So anytime that there's any type of permits or something pulled, we have CSG who we consult with, and we pay them a certain percentage. So if you see our revenue costs go up, our expense is going to go up as well. And we're asking to increase that for a CSG contract. And then we did have, when the fire chief retired, there were some costs that we needed to pay out, and so we didn't anticipate that, so we're asking that that budget be increased by $1,000 as well. And then maintenance costs, we are asking to increase the budget by $24,000. This basically includes the contract for Ronnie's Landscape. Mark went out and renegotiated the contract, which actually increased the services that we were being provided before. We went from every other week to weekly service, and so the price went up. It isn't something we originally anticipated in the budget, and so we're bringing those costs up to actuals now that we have the contract and it was adopted by council. So basically, we're asking to increase total general fund expenditures by $217,430. This would bring this year's budgeted expenditures to $11 million and a little over $11 million. With the newly anticipated increase of revenues, we do not expect to have a deficit at year end. We are expected instead to finish the year with $7.8 million, we are expected to finish the year with a $7.8 million fund balance due to the increase in revenues. However, if we don't expend all the budgeted amounts that we're discussing, there will be an additional increase to the year's surplus. And basically that sums up the general fund. Does anybody have any questions regarding the general fund before I move on? No?
When you increase we only, I guess at mid-year, we only increase the expenditure side. Do we increase the budgeted amount side?
We have in the past increased the revenues, but we're not required to do so. Law only states that we have to increase the expenditures. And because some of them are still fluctuating, especially the permits, we're not quite clear where we're going to be with those. We decided just to leave revenues out this year. We do have an estimated amount, and when we move on to the budget, those estimates will be included with the new budget numbers, but we're not asking to formally adopt those. We're only required to do the expenditures, and we're going with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the Measure P fund balance. The Measure P fund balance before you includes tonight's proposed adjustments. We are expecting to collect approximately $1.17 million for both police and fire. Police will expend $1.1 for the year, while fire will expend $1.13. Police was originally budgeted to deficit spend by over $45,000. However, by moving the officer back into the general fund, there will be a surplus of $72,435. Okay?
And I don't see 1.1 is the beginning fund balance for police.
What I'm saying, what they'll collect, if you look under revenues, 1.175.327
okay,
is what the revenues will be brought in for police, and then $1,172,325 for fire. Generally, it's split 50-50, but because PD has a little bit more in their fund balance, they make more money on interest, and this includes the interest.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, I was just on the wrong line, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. And we're asking that fire's expenditures be increased by almost $40,000 to accurately represent costs associated with the strike team. I guess it's a little over $40,000. Again, to just align it with the right amount that's being spent on things that happen here within the city versus when we send people out. The adjustments that we will be asking for tonight are a reduction in police Measure K of $118,000 to move the employee to the general fund, an increase of $21,121 for fire Measure P, and an increase of $19,036 for fire Measure K. If tonight's, I'm sorry.
I guess I don't understand why the strike team part is coming out of Measure P and K.
Because it could differ. Either somebody that gets paid out of that fund was sent to a strike team, and regardless of what they're doing, however their whatever their distribution is how they'll be paid, or it could be because somebody covered. We count that too. So if somebody who is paid out of the general fund went to the strike team, but a Measure P employee covered for them, then we're increasing the overtime by that so we can get because if we didn't have strike team, then we wouldn't need to increase the overtime. And basically we want to look at fire and say they spent $50,000 on overtime for Measure P, however, 40 of that was to cover strike team, which we get reimbursed for, so we're trying to just get a more accurate depiction.
Okay.
I know, it's kind of hard
Yeah,
to
I'm
understand.
gonna-
It's more for a finance thing to get us where we think we need to be so we could view it better for ourselves. It's not something that we can plan for as far as strikes teams go. When we put it in the budget, we usually put a $10,000 plug, and it's up to Tim to keep his people in line with overtime, but we're sending them out on the strike team that we're getting reimbursed for, sometimes above what we paid. Therefore, we're trying to, let him...
Explain to me, sometimes above what they're paid.
Okay, so when we get reimbursed for a strike team, they go out there. The costs that are associated, we have other costs that we get paid for that aren't in the budget. So there's admin fees, there's vehicle fees, there's things like that. So it's in excess. So we're increasing the budget so Tim has more room to play, basically. When you guys approve the budget, let's just pick a number. Let's say you give him, in the general fund, $10,000 worth of overtime. We're not anticipating that he's going to use any of that money on strike team. So if he sends people out to strike team and he uses that full $10,000, it's really not fair because he didn't get to use any of that money for overtime. So now that we know he's spent this money on strike team, we're saying, okay, you had your original $10,000, here's another $20 to cover what you sent out on strike team, so you still have this $10,000 pot for things that happen at home. Does that make more sense to you?
A little more, but then I guess when you do get paid, reimbursed from the state, does it pay back the adjustments?
No, it does not. That is...
See,
I don't like that either.
It doesn't work for
I
me.
have to agree with you, but there was little things that happened between department heads way back in the day that we need to revisit. And, Tim just got here. We haven't even had a budget time with Tim yet, so we haven't really discussed these things. But part of the reason, my understanding is, it's really hard to depict not only who went, but who might have covered at that time, and so it was just all put into the general pot. Is it fair? Not necessarily. Do we need to revisit it? Yes, we do. This is something that we would revisit at budget time and not mid-year.
Yeah, I guess I can't wrap my head around that it's going to come out of Measure P, but then at the end of it, when we go on these strike teams, at least I'm not aware, we don't lose money on these strike teams. Our costs are covered. That's kind of...
For the most part, yes. I can't say only one instance that I know any different.
Okay.
So that's pretty good.
So we're taking money out of Measure P to cover overtime for these strike teams, and then at least the way I understand it is when we do get paid back from the state, that money doesn't get it's fine if Measure P and K is the spot we take it out of. Well, when we get paid back, I would think that should get paid back.
That would be the logical way to do it. Yes.
Okay. Well, we need to. At least for me, I think we need to figure out maybe a more simplified way, because this seems really kind of around in circles for me.
It's something that we can do. Unfortunately, it's actually less simplified doing it that way, but it's something that we can take a look at and figure out for the next budget year.
Very good.
But your bottom line goal is to track by employee of who replaced whom.
Yes.
Because not all people are paid the same rate. Not all employees are paid the same rate.
And fire does an excellent job of tracking it. They really, really do.
Correct. So this is more finite for us and for you to say what were the actuals and not just the pot that came out of.
What most likely would happen would be actuals would be put back in the pot that they came from. So if a Measure P guy went, he spent $10,000. Again, I'm just making up numbers. We put $10,000 in there, say we got reimbursed at 20, the additional 10 would go into the general fund.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Something we'll present to you at budget time.
Okay. He doesn't want a loss.
I know, he doesn't.
None of us do. Okay.
Okay. If tonight's adjustments are approved, there will be 5 positions remaining in Measure K, 4 in police and 1 in fire. This year's cost of the 5 remaining positions is approximately $644,000 and are estimated to increase by 5% next year. Measure K sunsets in November of 2021, and we are on track with moving employees back into the general fund at a fiscally responsible pace. Since the passing of Measure K, we have moved back 3 positions into the general fund. We will continue with next year's budget to review our ability to move at least 1 position back into the general fund. There's 6 more years and 5 more positions, so we're doing good. Now on to lighting and landscape and lighting districts. There are 18 districts within the city. 46% of maintenance fund, or $490,000, is total budget. 10 districts are operating with a negative fund balance, which is approximately $800,000 total deficit between those 10 districts. Maintenance within the city for non-districts are 54% of the maintenance budget, or $585,000. This, of course, is a general fund expense. With next year's budget, we're hoping to look at different options to eliminate the deficit fund balance, reduce deficit spending in all the accounts, and review options to reduce the impact to the general fund for areas that are not within the district. Do you have a question? Here are the increases that we are requesting tonight for the different districts, and again, this has to do with the Ronnie's landscape contract that I previously mentioned. So District 1, which is Ranchwood Estates, we're asking for a $12,100 increase. Los Banos Gardens, District 3, $14,500, and this is for Ronnie's landscape contract and supplies. Meadowlands District 11, $20,400. Regency District number 14, $10,116, and Talbot Park District 19, $1,075 for a total increase of $58,191 to professional services. Okay.
So, just so I understand, so this is what those lighting and landscape districts this is part of what their deficit spending. So in order for us to make these increases, we're asking to take money from the general fund in order to... No,
not at this point in time. The increase here would be increasing the districts, what the districts are spending.
So that's each individual item?
Yes,
okay.
Each individual district, 1, 3, 11, 14, 19, would be increased. Of those districts, I think that there's Meadowlands for sure is deficit spending, and they would, obviously, that would be increasing their deficit, and I believe maybe Talbot Park.
Okay, so where does the money come from if it's deficit spending?
I'm sorry?
Where does the money come from if it's deficit spending?
It's just borrowing from elsewhere, and eventually the auditors are going to make us clean it up. So they're either going to make us do an official loan from the general fund to the different districts, or we could do a loan, but obviously if they're deficit spending, they can't afford to pay it back. So if we don't do any other type of cleanup, there's no point in doing the loan, or they can make us do a bailout. So essentially, it would be a one-time payment to from the general fund, because that's who could afford it, to the LLDs. You can't do it between the different districts. Essentially, right now, that's what's happening, because some districts do have a fund balance, some do not. It's kind of just borrowing from one to pay the other. We're just kind of floating.
This is one discussion that we've been ignoring. We have this talk about for about 30 minutes every year, and then we move on. And over the last couple of weeks, I've talked to the finance department and directly with Tanya about this. We talked a little bit about it in our department head meeting this week, but this is an item that I want to put to the top of our list, come up with a plan, bring it back to council. It's not going to be a fun discussion at all, because it's one we've been ignoring for years, but we have to have this discussion. It's an important discussion, and we just can't keep ignoring it. And you're getting a taste of it tonight, but I think when we come back with a plan, it's not going to be one that anyone's really going to be overwhelmed with. It's going to be a hard one to choke down, but we're we're going to have this talk internally, then we're going to bring it back here into the public and have that talk, but it's going to be about landscape and lighting district, so.
So I got one follow-up question to that, and maybe this isn't the time, but it just came to me, so I'm going to say it is I get it. I get that I believe the number's 800,000 that they're upside down, but I don't want to be in a position, just speaking my mind here, I don't want to be in a position to where we're going to put $800,000 to make it right, and then the following year have some of them already deficit spending. So when it gets to the staff level, you guys discuss potential issues. One of the things that I would like to see is, or have some assurance, is that if it does go down that road where we do the bailout or something, I'm not saying that's what the council's going to do, but if we go down that road, I don't want to keep throwing good money on top of a bad situation. So I would want some assurances that if we're going to do that, we're going to get them right, that we can continue to keep our head above water moving forward, versus putting the money and then a year later saying, oh, well, district, what number, whatever, or deficit spending.
That would be part of the plan before we proposed any type of bailout, is to fix it, because there's no point in bothering to bail it out if we can't find a way to maintain it. So first is to sit down, figure out how to fix the districts, how to stop them from deficit spending, which is quite difficult for some of them, especially since they weren't created in the right fashion in the first place. And then once we determine what that might be, then there's a possible bailout if it's necessary at that time.
Thank you.
Anything else about landscape and lighting districts?
Yeah, how much, I guess the simplified question would be, these districts that are in deficit spending, would they be the ones that are nowhere near build out? Would that be the general rule?
Can you help me on that one? Okay, Mark's going to help me on that one.
Okay.
Okay, the two biggest ones are Meadowbrook and Meadowlands and Stone Creek. Yes, Stone Creek is not at build out. Meadowlands is, unless we can incorporate another area into it. And those are the two ones that are the most in deficit. The other ones, I believe, and I haven't seen the new numbers with this, the other ones are either level or actually a little more revenue above it. So it's basically three that are the deficit ones. And since we took the general fund out of it and went back on it, I think the difference is 200,000. So it's only, we've been incorporating back the other way, because we did take retro general fund out of this a while back that immediately put them 600,000 about in the hole when this was done. But yes, those are them.
Okay. So, all right. Can I have two questions? Mrs. Lewis?
Yes, Sonia, or either Mark, are there contracts that are going to be expiring soon on these landscape and lighting districts that will help maybe some of these deficits be renegotiated?
The only contract, the only contract we have, we just went into it with the Ronnie's Landscaping. It's the only contract we have that does the landscaping. And what you're seeing in these increases, there's quite a bit of increase in the bid, because it went from bi-weekly service twice a month to every week service, and nobody, we only had one bidder, but even the other people, they could not bid it twice a month, because they couldn't keep their crews only working half a month.
Maybe I used the wrong terminology. I'm speaking more so of the landscape and lighting district with the developers. So the agreements that were signed, do they expire? Is there anything coming up that's going to expire soon where we can renegotiate?
We are doing that right now with some of the extensions on areas that do not have the tentative maps. We're trying to look at the actual pro rata share of what it would be if everybody was at the right level, and the new ones would be a separate. If there's an A and a B, there would be a C, and they would be given the actual pro rata share of what that is. So we're not taking 100 new units and putting it back into 100 new units would be paying the correct amount. Okay. So that would solve the new ones.
Essentially, the actual agreement, the district doesn't expire. It just goes in perpetuity. What Mark is saying is that, if there's anything in that's not built out, that when it does get added in, it'll get added in at the right value, which will help this out as well.
So anything that's full build out, it is what it is.
It is what it is. We can increase it on an annual basis depending on what the contract says. It's usually 5 to 15%.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ferrer?
Are there any of the LLCs moving in the opposite direction, creating large surpluses?
There are some that do have large surpluses, but usually those build-ups are for big projects that are coming up. So in fact, like I think there's one this year that we are spending down some of the fund balance to replace the playground equipment. So anytime you see the fund balance start to build up, it's because Public Works has a plan to, fix something, add something, in that essence. It's not really something we can just build up.
Okay, just looking to see if those someplace
Unfortunately, they can't bail each other out. It's not legal. So that the money that is collected in that LLD has to be used for that LLD, and it cannot be used to bail out another one.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to the enterprise funds. Overall, the enterprise funds are on track. Water expenditures are low. We have some capital outlay projects, including wells and a water master plan that have been budgeted, and we haven't expended any of the funds. The wastewater expenditures are at 35% because there is a debt service that is paid at the end of the year, so that'll bring us up to the right amount when that gets paid out. And at this time, we're not asking for any adjustments for any of the enterprise funds. And the other adjustments for different, well, they're actually all special revenue funds, but final adjustments that we are requesting are $9,015, and this is for the Springbrook migration process, and basically the final payment was not included in the budget. Some of these costs included, these costs are for unanticipated add-ons and customs that we required in Springbrook. It is a project that we started back in April of last year and finished up, I guess you can call it, after the beginning of the budget year. The CDBG program income of $1,700 increase is for admin costs. We had a micro enterprise loan. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm getting this one mixed up with the NSP. This is usually for micro enterprise loans, and the costs are associated with the notice of funding availability. We just had a public hearing, and we'll be having another one. And also we had to update our reuse plan, and so we are able to expend some of the costs out of the CDBG account, so we're asking for an increase there. The fire CFDs, again, is for strike team to get that all straightened out. $11,000 for NSP program income. What happened here is we had one of our NSP homeowners refinance their house. They're not allowed to do that. If they do that, then they have to repay the loan, and so that's what they did. Any costs that are associated with that have to be sent back to the state, so we're asking for an increase in the expenditure account so we could send the money back to the state, and that brings the total other increases or adjustments up to $43,517. Future, oops, I'm missing a slide.
Sonia, is Springbrook working for you?
It's lovely. That's my answer. We still are working out the kinks. There's a lot of things that are better about it, and there's a lot of things that have caused us to be inefficient. And we have communications with Springbrook. They're working on fixing them. I can honestly say that I don't think that they talked to one single finance person when they put the new upgrade together. So it's been a pain, but we're dealing with it, and we're trying to work with them to get the kinks out of it, and it's slow. We are having more problems than we anticipated, but basically they took a good program, or a semi-decent program, and scrapped it and started all over, when they should have just approved upon what they had. And they started all over, and I'm not sure why they did that, and had I known, we might have waited a little bit longer to do that. But it's unfortunate, but we're working with it. And
so we're not, so are you confident or somewhat confident that they're going to work out the kinks so it'll be a viable program for us, so it doesn't cost us more in time than it does to
Yes.
the program's worth?
Definitely.
Okay.
We actually get weekly upgrades on complaints that not only we've made, but other customers have made as well. So we do upgrade the system, if not weekly, bi-weekly, just trying to fix some of the kinks. So they're listening to us. It's taking time, but at least they're listening to what our concerns are.
All right. Thank you.
Upcoming budget events, we are currently working on the 15-16 budget. Staff is always busy preparing either mid-year or quarterlies or new budgets. So we have sent out all the paperwork to the departments, working behind the scenes. We're anticipating to have a budget study session here in the council chambers at 5 p.m. on May 26th, and then to bring the budget for the public hearing on June 17th, 2015 at the regularly scheduled council meeting. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, do we have any additional questions for Finance Director Williams at this time? Okay. If not, do I have a motion on resolution number 5644? Do I have a motion? Mr. Silvera?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 5644, adopting a revised budget for the 2014-2015 fiscal year as it pertains to expenditures.
Mrs. Stonegrove?
Second.
Motion by Silvera, second by Stonegrove to approve resolution number 5644 is read. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Okay, let's go on to item 10. Presentation regarding the new Los Banos Airport site selection and concept study update. Public Works Director Fajan.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Tonight we have with us Mr. Robert Waddell of Waddell Engineering, and he's worked for years and years on our airport. He's our engineering consultant for as long as, definitely as long as I've been here, but quite a ways back. Tonight he's going to present the scope of work for the new Los Banos Airport site selection and concept study update. He is not under contract to do this study. This is his scope of work that he has proposed to do on it. So that's what he will be presenting to you at this time. So Bob, thank you.
Good evening. Nice to be back in Los Banos. It's a little hard to follow the Girl Scouts, but airports are exciting, so we'll try to take it from there. We have studied the airport for a long time. We did a site selection master plan environmental all the way back in 1974, and that allowed the city to enter the federal program and get grants. They were not an endorsed site up until that point in time, and so we've looked at your airport for a long time around here. We've done several master plans, done a lot of engineering projects seeking the FAA and state grants, and we did a site selection study back in the early 2000s, 2003 or so. The city was looking at the possibility of moving the airport to a new site. That did not move forward. It seems to be an issue that keeps raising its head, and there are many areas of merit in that respect. And so the city is once again looking at the possibility of conducting an update to our study, which is why I am here tonight. So in terms of our slides, the existing airport, and this slide's the airport fairly recent. You can see how the airport does have significant development around it, both to the south and east. And in fact, we had to negotiate with the Airport Land Use Commission several years ago to accept the fact that the traffic pattern is on the west side of the airport, and therefore we shouldn't have as many restrictions on the east side for air traffic, which would hamper your development. The airport doesn't have any room to expand. It's not had any opportunity to acquire land around it or at either end, and so it is hemmed in. The airport is safe, it's functional. All in all, it's in good condition, other than the need for some paving projects and some upgrades. Some of the facilities at the airport could even be relocated to a new site, so it's not as if you have to start totally from fresh. In terms of the next slide, the area airspace, The Los Banos Airport does have instrument approaches. FAA considers it to be an important airport serving general aviation. The Hollister Airport is to the west over the hill, as you know, and Merced Airport to the east, and several other small airports to the north, Castine, and southeast, Faribault. But the Los Banos Airport is certainly one of the better airports in the area. In this site study update, we will once again review possible site areas, and this is a little hard to see. However, to the northwest, to the top left, is sort of an area that could be a candidate for sites. Also, sort of a westerly area, which is just west of town and south of 152. Another area is the southwest, running along I-5, and a last area would be more of a central site, which is to the bottom right. We stayed away from the areas out toward the wildlife refuge and bird areas and environmental areas, because those really aren't viable sites anyway, so there's not a lot of reason to study areas like that. The analysis factors that we'll be using, the major ones are the operational factors, how well you can lay out an airport, how well it can function and operate in terms of traffic pattern and ability to have reasonable development at the outset, plus some room for expansion. In terms of expansion, the most we'd really look at is a runway of the length of 5,800 or 6,000 feet. That's sufficient for a lot of the business jet aircrafts that are currently using airports and coming to communities. And it does not have to be the very long runways for much larger business jets or for commercial use. And so for a general aviation airport, the upper limit of the kind of site we'd be looking for would be as much as a 6,000-foot runway. But also the first phase would be meeting the obligation of replacing the airport if FAA were to allow that, and that would be having a runway in the range of 3,800 feet, which is your current runway length. In terms of environmental factors, we look at the obvious environmental things as to what are the land uses, what are the flora and fauna in the area, any impact you might have on wetlands or wildlife refuges or bird areas and so on. Engineering factors are more related to the soils and the slope of the site and the nature of how well you can develop an airport on it. And then cost factors kind of bring it together as to how costly is a new site and how does it compare from one to another. Are you dealing with some special features like a canal or some drainage ditches or extensive earthwork or what? So those are sort of the major considerations we'll be making as we compare sites. And we'd be looking for preferably 3 sites that could be compared as to, out of these site study areas, as to how we might develop a new airport. And you might have 2 sites that are within the same zone, like Central or West or whatever, but if it's possible to have 3 in the different zones, that can provide for a good comparison. But we will take a look at the possibilities and identify with staff and council what seem to be the 3 best to actually make a good comparison of. In terms of these operational factors, we're looking at the airspace. You can see from the earlier slide there's plenty of room for airspace around here. Any obstructions in the area. Wind is an important factor. We actually have the opportunity now to download data that's been collected from your airport wind equipment, the AWOS, the Automated Weather Observing System, and run that through the computer and get a wind rose as to what is the direction of the wind here throughout the year and in the various instrument conditions, visual and instrument. And that will help us in determining what would be a good orientation for a runway. Last time we did this study in 2003, we didn't have that data. The equipment wasn't in place and didn't have 10 years worth of records. Now we have good information, and since this is an update and a continuation, in essence, of our earlier work, we should take advantage of that, so that is part of our effort. Also, the visibility in the area, is there a reason that we're going to have fog in particular at one site versus another? It can vary quite a bit here. And also accessibility, how well can we really get to the site? In terms of environmental factors, we look at the natural environment, as I mentioned, and the social environment. What are the flight patterns? Are we a suitable distance away from schools and hospitals? Are we away from landfills, i.e. dumps, as we used to call them? For piston aircraft, you're supposed to be 2 miles away. For turbine, 5 miles away. Also, engineering factors. What is the slope of the ground? We don't want a site that's too steep. We don't want to have too much in terms of earthwork costs. Also, drainage. If a site is too flat, it doesn't drain well, so we go through that. In fact, even when we did a engineering project at your airport years ago for the runway extension, the contractor was surprised that the water would leave an area and it would go to another area and then it would come back around and then over there, and he said, where does it finally get out? And we said, well, it actually doesn't. And that's why we're going around this long route. We're given enough time to finally evaporate or go in the ground. So we do want a site that will preferably drain fairly well. We want a site that has soils that are suitable and good, and of course granular soils are good, but in your case with the soils being somewhat of a clay, we did a lime treatment of the soils in the past to provide a stronger surface underneath the runway. Also utilities, do we have long extensions for utilities? And fortunately nowadays you even have options of solar going on top of hangars, and so you're not extending as much electrical as you might otherwise. Maybe you'll even strike gas or oil or something, and you can refine the fuel on site and fill the airplanes and cut out all the trucking. In terms of cost factors, what does the land cost? Some sites are more costly than others. The construction costs, depending again on the soils, the drainage, the earthwork, and the features, and any relocation costs if there's any occupancy of the land or any facilities that need to be rerouted. And then finally, utility costs. So those are the things that we'll be looking at more specifically on the 3 preferred candidate sites. And then the study elements, we're going through this in a stepwise fashion. We'll first be looking at the existing airport, and we're plenty familiar with it, and so are you. But this report will be read by others as well, the FAA, State Aeronautics, and so we will be identifying what really is the nature and the capability of the existing airport and what's the condition of it. We'll also be doing forecasts that are updated now. We haven't done forecasts for about 6 or 7 years, and forecasts of activity as to what we might expect for traffic so we can properly size the airport. We'll do facility requirements to identify how many hangars of what type, what runway length and width, what taxiways. FAA has changed their design standards just in the last year. So there's all kinds of new categories that we would have to update. Even if we were updating your existing airport layout plan, we'd be making these changes. We'll then review the alternative sites, and we're doing this interactively. We're depending on city staff to work with us on this in terms of what are some of the future development aspects around these sites, just such as was being discussed tonight, and what are some of the limitations, what are the properties, what are any of the obligations in terms of Williamson Act and other things, what do all these mean, how do we relate, what are the parcel maps, and so on. So as we analyze these, we'll be looking in detail at these 3 preferred sites in particular. We'll make a comparison, and that would be a qualitative comparison as the advantages and disadvantages, sort of a plus, 0, and minus system, 0 if it's neutral, one site to another. We will then do a conceptual plan or layout for the preferred site, and that will show where would the runway really be, where would we have apron, how would we get to it, where would we put hangars, sort of as an overview to characterize the site concept. And then we do conceptual cost estimates. What do we think this might really cost to buy the land to develop the airport? Part of that will be what grant funds would be available. The FAA grant program for general aviation airports such as yours is a 90% grant. Your existing airport is a non-primary airport. It doesn't have commercial service. It does have entitlements every year. $150,000 is available to you, and you can keep that money for up to 4 years before you start losing any of it. And so you can accumulate up to $600,000, and then your oldest grant of $150,000 that's 4 years old then drops off the chart if it's not used or obligated. Also, State Aeronautics will match the FAA grants if you get in sync with their program and apply for it, and that match is 5%. So you then have a bottom line to the city of 5%, which is in essence 5% state, 90% federal, and 5% local. But part of this is that the FAA wouldn't have great interest in you closing your airport. In fact, they resist that very much nationwide. The FAA would not really be excited about you relocating your airport, but part of our study is to evaluate what is your existing airport, what are the capabilities, what are the issues, and what other possibilities are out there. That kind of information would be presented by me with city staff and any of you to the FAA in meetings to discuss what is this all about, why are we doing this, what are the benefits to the traveling public and the city and the area. And as part of that, we want to get some closure with the FAA as to what does it mean if you did have closure of your airport. They would object to that. It would be a battle. Some airports do close. Rialto closed in Southern California. It went all the way to Congress. It was a long battle. But airports do close occasionally, but more often airports do relocate. And relocation is something that is a possibility. It's something that FAA can participate in. It's something that is negotiated. At the outset, of course, the city says, we'd like a whole new airport, please pay for it. The FAA says, gee, we're sorry you came. And the FAA then says, we really don't want to pay for much, and then we start working toward the middle from there. And what is not uncommon to expect is that FAA can expect you to spend any proceeds you have from your airport on a new site. They can also expect you to develop the new airport at your own cost. And after you've replaced the airport, that then they would chip in with federal funds. But there's also some middle ground there because some of your facilities that you're replacing are actually worn out and tired already. So there's engineering formulas to go through as to what truly is the value if you are to replace it. So it's something that we would investigate thoroughly with the FAA and analyze and then do some calculations as to where's all this going. So that's kind of what would be involved in the update of our previous work. A lot of things have changed since then, and we look forward to working with the city staff if you choose to go forward with this, and I'm open to any questions.
Kerrigan?
Bob, thank you for coming down. It's good to see you again. And I can't stress to everyone enough what a big deal this is. This is probably the most important project we're working on, which might sound interesting to most people considering we've been spending a lot of time in town talking about this proposed industrial park at 165 and 5. But if we can't find a location to relocate the current airport or current runway to, we can't begin to have a discussion about a regional hospital or a medical complex. The city owns 125 acres. If we can find a location that frees to move this runway to, that opens up 125 acres, and it'll take 50 acres for a regional hospital, but we could carve out 80 and put in a medical complex, or 80 to 100, and still have land over to either do something with or sell and pump that money back into the project. But we can't even have that discussion if we can't be successful at this project. So it's interesting, a lot of people want to talk to me about this industrial park, but I want to talk about relocating a runway and finding the right location. And you were the perfect person to talk to because you have history and such a wonderful history with this runway or this airport. And I think you're definitely the right person. And hopefully we can, take that next step here in the near future and get a proposal out of you and turn the wheels, because I do know it takes time. I don't want to jump ahead. I have 1,000 questions for you, later. But the one question I want to ask, and you kind of talked about wind studies a little bit there, and I was under the impression that we had to do a year's worth of wind studies. Is that still applicable, or because we have all this data now with technology, do I not have to do that? Or?
Well, it certainly is true. The FAA will want and expect to see 1 year of wind that is site-specific. But what's different now than it was 10 years ago is we actually have data that's at least for your existing airport, and to the extent we can characterize that as being from this area and in the vicinity, as we get farther away with a site, then someone could certainly maintain that the data is not as applicable. But we kind of like to ride a couple horses at once, and so of all things, on March 9th, we are disassembling an AWAS, like your weather system, up at Lone Pine Airport in Inyo County, and it's going to be thrown away, and a brand new AWAS is coming in based on our design and the bids. And I talked with a contractor last week and said, what are you going to do with that AWAS? And he said, well, we're going to have to go dump it somewhere. I said, well, let's talk about apple pie for a moment. What I'd like the county to consider and what I'd like you to think about is, what if that AWAS gets rebuilt enough that it can be put on a trailer and it can be moved around to various places, and you spend some money to do that, and you talk to the manufacturer, and we even talk to state aeronautics, but then it's something that can be available. And I've got a client that may very well want to lease it for a year.
Right.
And they said, well, we'll look into that. And so that could give you some site-specific wind. But we will have some good information. And you know, even looking at the history of this and so on, when we all start off as freshmen in college studying whatever we do, whether it's city management or finance or urban planning or engineering, we're all just blown away at all this information and all the things that we're going to learn and how we're going to apply it for all these years. And then you spend decades out there applying it and you actually get good at it. But then you come back to a fundamental thing that you learned when you were a freshman, and that is, when you're doing a site selection study, would you have put the airport here in the first place? And so therefore, if you're doing a site update now, would you again put it in the same place? And it's very obvious that if you were planning this community, you would not be putting the airport there, but it's also obvious that you'd put a hospital there. And so a lot of these things fall in place just as you look at the big picture. And so it is very apparent that this is a good time, as your airport is aging, to, instead of spending more money on it now, which is appropriate and it's under grant, to instead look at possibly doing it at a better location in a better way.
Very good, thank you.
Silvera?
I caught it earlier when you were talking in the qualitative comparisons. You mentioned about, did you say something about schools and with turbine engines it can't be no closer than 5 miles?
Well, that's actually, the old word is dumps or landfills. And so with turbine aircraft, that it's preferred to not be within 5 miles, but also case by case and where the birds are really going, you could have it, something less than that based on FAA agreeing to that. And state aeronautics is the one that doesn't, between state education and state aeronautics, they don't want schools within 2 miles of an airport. And that often results in a special study by state aeronautics saying, well, in this case, the school's okay, or it's existing, or that's really not in the flight area. Just like when we had to go do battle with the Airport Land Use Commission as to the fact that all of downtown is really not in a fly area here because the pattern's on the west. And so we had to prevail that you don't put all these restrictions on downtown Los Banos when you're not flying over it in the first place. So the common sense has to prevail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks very much. Nice to visit Los Banos.
City Manager Kerrigan brought up about the hospital. We have a population here on the west side with Santanella, Gustine, Los Banos, Dos Palos of more than 60,000 residents. And yet we don't have a major medical facility here on the west side. The supervisors took the right step by approving the study and the putting together the team for the industrial park. And this needs to continue. It's very important that we continue to move forward. Our hospital is very much impacted. They don't have the room. They've outgrown their site. That was a wonderful facility at the time it was built in the 60s, but now it's a small facility based on the population of the west side. We need to continue to move forward with this project in its entirety. The industrial park, along with the accompanying airport, again, will provide anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 jobs. The land, then, that is freed by the moving of the airport, then will accommodate a hospital or a regional medical facility. We have a master plan, and we need the cooperation of everyone in order to make sure this happens. It is a great master plan, and I would ask you to talk to Dr. Gokley, who is the current administrator of the Memorial Hospital Los Banos. This weekend, my father had to be hospitalized for a while, and we were there, and they had patients in the hallways because they're running out of space. So not only is this important for the future of Los Banos with jobs, it is the future of Los Banos with a good medical facility, because a good medical facility will attract even more businesses here. So, Steve, keep pushing, keep working, because this is what we need. Thank you. All right. And thank you for the report, Bob. Let's go on to item 11, advisement of public notices. Assistant Planner Elms, 3 reports.
Yes. So the first public hearing item will be a variance for the Los Banos Courthouse. They're requesting a variance for noise associated with the construction of the new Los Banos Courthouse project. They're asking to begin work each day at 5:30 a.m., whereas the code only allows them to begin work each weekday at 7 a.m. And this is in order to be able to use the dawn early hours of the morning where it's cooler, and their extensive work that they're going to be doing on the site, so that the Swinnerton crew can safely get that construction done early in the morning. So the Planning Commission will be considering that item. The next is a general plan amendment in a zone change and a tentative parcel map for Habitat for Humanity Westside Merced. This particular project is located on M Street, and they're requesting this project proposal to rezone 3 parcels that are currently zoned low-density residential into medium-density residential, and then to have a remainder parcel for highway commercial that has an existing warehouse on it. And this is in order so that Habitat Humanity can provide more housing for needy families in Los Banos. And then the last item is a proposed ordinance revision for the mobile vendor ordinance. City staff with the city attorney has been reviewing the ordinance, and our current ordinance that we have in place does not identify the different type of vendors that we currently have out in the city of Los Banos right now. It doesn't distinguish between really a catering truck and an ice cream vendor, or even push carts, or how about a flash sale type of truck that just wants to sell a particular item for maybe 2 hours. Our ordinance doesn't address those type of special mobile vendors, and so we wanted to update that, to possibly revisit that. And also there is new legislation out that we need to update our mobile vendor ordinance to be in compliance with the laws of the state of California. So this public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 11th at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Let's go on to item 12, City Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of quick ones because I know it's getting late and everyone's a little tired. People are still not adhering to the watering schedule, and it's a year-round schedule. I'm going to read it off, and I really hope everyone's paying attention because we're trying to work with the residents, but we do get calls at City Hall. The hours are for watering: odd number addresses Saturday and Tuesday before 11 a.m. and after 7 p.m. Even numbered addresses Sunday and Wednesday before 11 a.m. and after 7 p.m. If you have a neighbor or a friend that's not getting it, please call us. If they're having trouble with their timers, please call us. We had trouble with our timer at our house. Public Works came out. They exorcised the demons. It works great. Thank you. But I think sometimes people just need a little help. So if you have a neighbor or friends having trouble, please give us a call. Call Public Works. We'll help them out and get them on track. But we are having a lot of people that still aren't quite getting it. The second thing that's kind of a downer is we have a lot of jaywalkers. We've all seen them. I know the police department and CHP are out there looking for them, but use the crosswalks. I mean, I know I'm probably speaking to the choir here, but we've had some problems, we've had some accidents, and it's very noticeable. But I'm going to end on a high note, and I want to thank the Girl Scouts. If you don't like Girl Scout cookies, I know who the problem is, but thank you. Mrs. Baker, thanks for bringing them down. You can come down here anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's go on to City Council member reports, and tonight we'll start with Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make mention that the Knights of Columbia had their basketball free throw contest on February 21st, and it was a real success. There was a child out there on the floor, and his mother gave me permission to take a little videotape of him, and he was bouncing that basketball like someone that was 6 years old, and this kid was only 2 years old. So there was some incredible talent out there with the young kids, and I'm really proud of them. I have a bent heart towards basketball, so I really enjoyed being there Saturday and watching these kids perform and doing the free throw contest. Sonia and the financial staff, thank you again for what you do. I kind of jumped the bucket, I think, at our last meeting and congratulated you for this award, but I think the auditors kind of let the cat out of the bag and insinuating that you were going to get it, and we did, and so congratulations for all the work that you've done for the city. The Girl Scouts, their participation with rebarking one of our parks here in Los Banos, I had an opportunity to work with the girls on that project. I tell you, they had a lot of fun doing that. And in the fun, they did a great job. So I'm really proud of those girls because they have a desire to want to do things for our city and to help our city look better and raise the quality of life. So I'd like to encourage our departments to work with them again and see what other projects we can get them to do, because they have no bones about getting out there and rolling up their sleeves and helping our city look better. So congratulations to those girls, and thank you to their leaders for helping them understand that hard work is still a good thing to do. And I want to thank them personally for coming tonight and offering these cookies to the council and to some of our staff members, and to the wonderful proclamation that they deservingly received this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to, should close this. Okay, Mr. Silvera.
First off, I too want to thank the Girl Scouts. I've already partaked in some of those cookies in one of our breaks, so thank you for that. Look forward to it every year when you guys come down. The other thing I have on my list is, you heard earlier, if you're listening, was a request for a street closure. The May Day Fair is just right around the corner. It is April 29th through May 3rd, and I'll be bringing more information as we get closer, but just wanted to kind of start putting it in people's mind. And then if you're looking for discount admission tickets, discount carnival wristbands, all those things, you can start purchasing those at the fair after April the 1st. And again, a future council meeting, I'll bring back with more specifics on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go on to Mrs. Stonegrove.
Thank you. A couple of announcements or reminders again. The spring cleanup that will be held March 28th at the fairgrounds from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then this Friday, day after tomorrow, March 6th, is Arbor Day at 4 p.m. I also want to congratulate Sonia and Martha and the finance staff that's not here tonight, Kim and Rosemary and everyone else on the award. And also thank you to the Girl Scouts for being here again and for all the work you do in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Freya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the Girl Scouts. Yes, I too have broken into mine. Congratulations on the award, Finance Department. Doing an outstanding job there. We very much appreciate it. And we appreciate all the updates you give us. Council also receives, we get regular reports of the financial activity are emailed to us, and so we're kept abreast of everything that's going on. So we're very pleased with that department success and the great work you're doing there. Thank you so much. Monday, March 9th, groundbreaking, new junior high, and that's 5 o'clock at the new junior high site, which is there behind the Lowe's and Target area there. Between the city and the school district, we managed to make that happen. And then it's very exciting because the junior high right now, the present junior high, is extremely crowded. Street fair in April. I forgot to write down the date, but I'm sure the chamber director will be back to tell us, to remind us before it happens. It's mid-April. Chamber of Commerce putting that on. And then I wanted to read a message here I received from a man in Los Banos who he moved here a few years ago He's very successful in real estate and management in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and he lives here because he likes the family-based lifestyle, and also he was moved here thinking about the potential of the town and how much we can do to make the town even better for our citizens. And here's what he wrote me, and it was so beautifully written, I have to share it tonight. Town leaders must understand that in order for additional, substantial, and sustainable profit centers to arrive here, they must see that they are investing in a community that has a voice, an identity, a vision, and a pride of citizenship. Ramp up to this mega complex, referring to the industrial park, by improving daily life here for all of us that are here now. And when the time comes, the new ventures will see the synergy and want to partake in continued growth. Thank you very much for sending me that message. And thank you everyone for coming out tonight and all the hard work we're doing. And have a great evening.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes, Sonia, I just had one question. Did you mention there was going to be a budget study on May the 25th? 26th, okay, thank you.
Okay, again, thank you to the Girl Scouts. Love your cookies. I've been eating them all week, so thank you. Now I'll eat some more. Arbor Day, Mrs. Stonegrove mentioned that, and there's also an Arbor Day breakfast this Friday at Million Lux? Million Lux.
7 to 10.
7 to 10, thank you. And then March 19th, they're going to have at Espana's, I believe it's for lunch, it's Women's Workplace Safety. So if you're a local business owner or anyone who would like to attend this safety presentation, please do so. It'll be at Espana's on March 19th. And don't forget that this Sunday is daylight savings time. So fall back, right? Spring forward. Oh, spring forward. Okay, is fall back? Spring forward? Okay, I got that part right, but this is spring. Okay, so spring forward, so you're going to lose an hour of sleep, so set your clocks 1 hour ahead, correct? All right, we got that right. You could have billed us for an extra hour, Mr. Attorney.
Come on with those cookies. Same thing.
I want to turn the microphone over to City Engineer Fachin, because recently it was mentioned, and I sent out a letter to all the merchants in town who have shopping carts. And City Engineer Fachin has received calls, positive calls, so now I'm just going to let him explain what's happening with this.
Thank you, Mayor. Based on your letter, obviously, we got a call in from a private contractor, and the disclaimers, whoever's doing this, anyone can do this, and we'll treat anybody the same way on this, but a private contractor who's in the cart retrieval service actually has 8 clients on that list that you sent out, and definitely some of the bigger clients that have shopping carts out there. And he's going to be working with us. He contacted Royal Lloyd, and he'll be working with us on this, and he let us know that he will service Los Banos on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and he also will take calls from us that says where there is carts. When he's in town, he's going to look everywhere, because the more carts he gets, the more money he gets. But we will call him up. Public Works will be the center of this administration effort. The police will report to us if they see carts, and we will make a daily call to this person to see if we can get on the carts. Now, there's 8 of them that are on here. There's some that are not. We've already contacted some of the businesses that were on the letter, but we don't know if they might have a different contractor. It's up to them. Several of them, and we can tell by how we have to pick it up, some of them have carts, but they really don't have a problem. It's 1 cart every couple months. Several of them actually hunt their own carts down now by their own employees, so they have their own policy going. One of them has the automatic locking carts, so they really don't have a lot of carts that get away. But we'll talk to all of them and just say, what are you doing to address the letter, and just try to get proactive on that. In the meantime, these 8 are the only ones that we really know about, so we'll still look for the ones that don't have that, but these 8 will be picked up by this fellow, this company 4 times a week. And he will respond in 24 hours if there is a situation where there's like a few out there, and he'll come and pick them up. So I think we're getting some grip here on this, and I think it's really important that this person did contact us. He's not a contractor for the city. He just wants to let us know if we'll help him to report where they're at, and of course he will. And he's sort of our follow-up to the 8 people that he services at the time. And what he does do as a business, it's a business investment. He does pick up other people's carts that aren't his clients, brings them back to their stores, knocks on their door, talks to the manager and says, I just returned $150 of carts for you. Here, I do this for a living. It's not going to happen all the time. He also knows our ordinance. He'll be on his clients' carts, he'll be putting the proper signage on the carts. He's also looking at each of these individual clients to make sure that their parking lots are signed correctly for our ordinance. So he's really into this quite a bit. So I think, but if there's any questions and anyone wants to report anything, just call the Public Works office numbers. And we don't need callback numbers. We just put them on a list and we call them that day, every day. So your letter did find some ground. So.
Well, thank you, and thank you to the chief. My letter was somewhat passive, and the chief made it somewhat aggressive. So we had a little
more teeth.
Let's just leave it at that. And anyway, it was a good collaboration, and now we're going to take care of this problem. But citizens, I need your help, because if there's a shopping cart out there, I want you to call Public Works. You're not bothering them. That's the purpose of everything, of this whole process, is to make sure that we pick up all these carts. And get everyone who has shopping carts in the mode of saying, hey, they're gonna get someone to pick up the carts, and then they won't be a nuisance in town. And believe me, I get more phone calls on shopping carts, and I just don't want to listen to it. So we're going to take care of it one way or the other, and hopefully it can be the passive and not the aggressive mode. So this way it seems like it's working. And there are a few other situations in town. I'm going to be working with the chief on drafting even more letters to some of the situations to try and get merchants in other service areas to help us out with different situations. And I'll be talking about those later. But hopefully by contacting the individuals involved, and not just bringing it to council with a big hammer I just don't feel that's the right thing to do. We want to give the merchants every chance to correct what needs to be corrected, and then that way it's a win-win and everyone feels good about it. And so that's the process that we're pursuing at this time, and I will give you more information at a later date. And Gary, thank you for your assistance. Tim, thank you. I know you guys have been hard at work on code enforcement, along with Chief Breezy, and we're going to correct some of the ills that have gone on too long in this town. So the code enforcement has received a number of calls. They've written a number of citations, but although that is not the function of code enforcement, the function of code enforcement is basically to educate and ask that some of these ills be corrected. So we're just hoping that can be done, and with the fire chief, it's for your own protection. Some of the things that are out there, we've had some buildings that basically need some assistance from the owners, and the fire chief and other parts of the city, other departments of the city have visited some of these owners, and it's not anything that's punitive. It's just to make sure that we have safe facilities in town. So thank you for all the cooperation. I really appreciate this, and I think it's at least in the shopping carts, we're finally going to solve this problem, or at least reduce it as much as we can. So with that, unless anyone has anything else, I am going to adjourn the meeting at 9:44.
So the rest has been on page 26.